People, today's task, the LIFAN 125, we're going to be changing the chain and the two sprockets, front and rear. Come and have a look. Going to be changing front sprocket, rear sprocket, fitting a new chain. We'll be using angle grinder, socket set and a link separator. I'll explain to that what that is. The reason being, look at our sprocket. You can see that it's starting to get pointed. By that what I mean is, instead of the teeth being that shape, the teeth have started to go that shape. They're wearing from that to that, and eventually they'll start to hook over and then snap off if you leave them anymore. So we'll get into it, we'll get set up. Welcome back. Right, the first thing we've done is we put the bike up on the centre stand so the wheel is turning free. We've backed off the adjusters, both one nut and the second nut, so your adjusters are free, both sides. Next will be an axle bolt. Slack them off, and then we're going to push the wheel forward to give us some slack on the chain. Plenty of slack. So the next step is basically removing the wheel itself. For this you're going to need the grips on the other side holding the axle while you take the final bolt out. Right, I've slid the axle out and I've kept on this side what came off this side, the wheel spacer, the adjuster plate and the adjuster itself with the axle nut. We've taken the hub drive off, leaving the rubbers in. These rubbers are called cush drive rubbers. That's all they do. If I can pop one out, yeah, that's all they are, is rubber. Check they're in good repair. They fit onto splines on the back of your sprocket carrier, and then when you leave your clutch out and you start driving, they give the back wheel a little bit of cushion before it snatches and goes. So we can undo the 4 bolts on the sprocket, then we can have a look at getting the chain off. Right, we've done the nuts. 2 of the studs came out as studs, so they'll thread back in, that's not a problem. So just pry off the old sprocket. Now the new sprocket we've been sent is slightly bigger, but that wouldn't be a problem really. That's just going to gear the bike up a little bit. It's still got the 42 teeth anyway. So for that one with the lettering out, you can see now what I mean about these teeth being rounded over versus being pointed. So we slip them over, drop them down in, put the studs back on and tighten them back up, and you'll torque these down to whatever spec is right for your bike. Right, we've removed the casing from the front sprocket. It's just 2 bolts, 8mm bolts. Leaves us front sprocket. Next we undo these 2 10mm bolts, rotate that plate and lift off. To do this you're going to have to obviously lock the chain up. So what you can do is put the chain back over the new sprocket, drop it down so that the wheel is locked, and do it that way. Now to get the 2 bolts out, this plate now you need to rotate a little bit until the splines line up. It can be a bit fiddly. You'll see that'll allow you to take him off. When you put him on, then he goes on, then obviously you have to rotate it to line the holes back up for the bolts. That stops our plate coming off. So let's rotate him. He sits over the spline. It'll be a bit fiddly and I'm in the way, but take him off. And that's your front sprocket ready to come off. Once you get the chain out of the way, like that. Give a wiggle. It's a front sprocket. Now this isn't hooked too bad, but we'll change him anyway. Right, we got the new sprocket. As always, letters or numbers, always face them out. They can be handed, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. I just rule of thumb, any letters or numbers face out. Fit that over your splines. I'm trying to get out of the way of the camera for you. Like that. Then your lock-in ring, again, needs to go offset to the holes to start with, and then turn it so that the holes line up. I'm trying to do this out of the way as well. There. Then it's your two, I'll get my fingers out of the way now, 10mm bolts. Pinch them back up. Now you can use the old chain to hold it again, or you can just nip them up and wait until you've got the new chain under tension, which is what I prefer to do. So I'll just nip these back up and then we'll have a look at getting the old chain off. Right, take the chain off now. You've got two ways. You can go completely through the chain with a disc, but then you risk snagging and ripping into the tyre or ripping in the frame. Or if you've got a pin pusher, not a chain splitter, a pin pusher, one of your face links, that's the outside links, not the inside links, grind off the head on two of the pins, then we'll use the pusher to push the pins out and split the chain. So I put the pin pusher on, I wound him in. If I back him off, you can see, so that it's pushing the pin out from the chain. Sometimes you can wiggle them like that the rest of the way. That's all it is. So by taking those two rivets, the heads off, the outer link is loose, and then the pin pusher, you open him up, grip him over ahead of the pin. It's a bit awkward to show and do at the same time, like that, so that the pin pusher, if you can get in there, is on the head then of the pin, and that's all you do, is you drive him forward and that pushes the pin out to split the chain. So then take your old chain out through the frame, weigh him in, make some art, do whatever you want. Right, you're looking for your split link in the new chain, and you're going to need a set of pliers. Go and grab those and we'll come back. Right, now to get our split link out, you want the pliers, the one edge on that pin, this side, and the other end of the pliers on the tail, and you're going to push that forward. It's a bit fiddly because you're in the way again. Like that. See it? Put that to one side, you're going to need that, and then you can push your link out. There's your link plate, and there's your link. So your chain now you can feed onto the bike. We've loosely put the axle back together and the wheel back in, just to allow us to feed the chain over. And feed them through the frame. Around the front sprocket. Now again, your bike should be in neutral to allow you to move. And then if you've got the right kind of length chain, you should be there or thereabouts. Now what you're going to do is you're going to put, I have to do this with my hands, can't do with gloves on. The link you're going to put in from the back of the chain, never forward, because you're going to need your split clasp on the end. So I always try and sort of partly hook one on, bring the chain up, and hook him through. Now if you find when you tension it that the chain is too long, then you can do exactly like we done last time, grind off 2 of these and reduce it by a link. But we'll try it like this to start. So then your chain plate goes on, bring it up to the top to make it easier. And then, now I was always told that that is a little fish. That's the fish's tail, that's his head, and a fish always swims upstream, always swims towards the front of the bike. So you drop it over the first pin, and then it's the reverse. I'm going to be pinching on that pin and the back of the plate to push him forward and hook him over. Again, this can be a bit fiddly, but like that. You'll hear him click and snap over, and then check he's swimming upstream towards the front of the bike with his tail at the back. So that's all you've got to do now, is you've got to move your wheel back, adjust on your adjusters. If it's too much slack, then obviously remove a link, but get the right amount of lift in your chain, whatever your book says for your particular bike, on your adjusters. Then we'll come forward and we'll tighten these 2 bolts once we got that done. Right, so axle is back through, spacers are all in, we've adjusted the adjusters, and we've got the chain, so it is just a little on the tight side, because within the first 10-15 miles that's going to stretch a little bit anyway. We've done our 2 front bolts for the wheel under tension, we tightened those back up again to torque. So all that remains then is to put cover over, 2 bolts through, take him for a run 15-20 miles, come back, retension the chain. Right, so I hope that helps people. It's basic stuff. Like you saw, you don't necessarily have to remove the black wheel completely, but you do have to take the axle right the way through. Take the sprocket drive off with the cush drive behind, the rubbers, make sure they go back on and seat properly. Split your old chain, take your front cover off, 2 bolts, and remember to turn that plate before it comes off the splines. Put your new sprockets on, tighten them up to torque settings in the book, feed your chain through, adjust the length of the chain if you need to. Now we had to take a link out because the chain was a little bit long, but that's fine. Run the chain for 15-20 miles maximum, and come home, check the tension on the chain, check your axle bolt, make sure everything's still tight, and do that again then another couple of times, 20-30 miles, Should be checking the chain every week anyway, but just to make sure, because that chain is going to stretch, because it's a new chain, those links, those rivets are going to stretch out initially, so just keep an eye on it, keep adjusting it. Check your book, the way you check your height on the chain to come down. You'll have a distance in your book, it may be 15mm, 20mm, whatever. Get a ruler or something that you can mark with your thumb, put it against the bottom of the subframe, push your chain up, back down. Thus the free play of the chain. Each book will give you a certain set height of play. This one I know is a little tight at the moment because I know that chain is going to stretch within the first couple of miles anyway. Apart from that, hope that helps. Stay safe, ride safe. See you all soon. Bye.